Around 7 months ago, an unsettling series of events began that has left me on edge ever since. I'm a 24-year-old living with my parents, and while our family has always struggled financially, my earnings go mostly towards supporting the household. My relationship with my parents is strained, and we often argue. So I spend most of my free time either working out or hanging out with friends. Fitness has always been my escape, a healthy distraction from my personal struggles. There is a park about a 10-minute drive from my house with a workout facility that I visited frequently. I prefer to go at night because it tends to be quieter then, and the serene environment helps me unwind. One hot summer night, as an argument erupted between my parents, I decided to escape to the park for my workout. The temperature was around 85 degrees, and the sticky, humid air was thick as I drove to the park, rolling down my windows to let the warm breeze in. Upon arriving, I noticed the park was deserted, perfect for a quiet workout. The park, perched on a hill overlooking the city, always provided a scene of calm and nostalgia. I began my usual routine, doing pull-ups and dips until exhaustion set in. But then, something chilling happened. In the midst of a set, a strange feeling compelled me to turn around. Standing less than a foot away was a tall, disheveled man with an unsettlingly close presence. I was startled and jumped back, letting out a startled scream. The man chuckled and apologized, claiming he didn't mean to scare me. His presence and behavior were peculiar, and he explained that he had seen me working out here frequently and wanted me to teach him. Though uneasy, I politely declined, saying I was just finishing up and would be leaving soon. I tried to refocus on my workout, but his gaze burned into my back, making me increasingly uncomfortable. Then, in a surreal moment, I heard him mutter my full name. My heart froze. I turned to see him staring at me with a disturbing grin. The moment felt unreal, like something out of a nightmare. Panic surged through me as I quickly decided to leave. I could feel his eyes boring into me as I retreated to my car, and thankfully he didn't follow me. Before I drove off, I glanced back and saw him attempting to use the bar, mimicking my previous exercises with a sense of eerie dedication. I sped away, shaken and questioning whether I had imagined the entire encounter. The next morning, as I headed out for work, I found an unmarked envelope at my doorstep. It was addressed to me. During my lunch break, I opened it in my car, expecting nothing of note. What I found was horrifying. 10 photographs of me, taken without my knowledge. There was one of me in my car, one exercising at the park, and the most disturbing of all, a picture of me sleeping, taken from outside my window. Overwhelmed by fear, I raced to the police station, showing them the photos and recounting the eerie encounter with the man. They assured me that they would investigate. I told my parents, and for the first time, they seemed genuinely concerned. As if the situation couldn't get worse, strange occurrences began to pile up. One night, at 3 a.m., I heard persistent knocks on my door, but didn't answer, fearing the worst. Another time, I found a sticky note on my car window with a heart drawn in Sharpie. I reported these incidents to the police, who opened a stalking investigation, but progress was pretty slow. And now, a month later, the fear remains palpable. My parents are searching for a new home, though our financial situation makes it a challenge. The situation is far from resolved, and I remain on high alert, sleeping with one eye open. I'll keep you guys updated if anything new occurs, but until then, the unease lingers, a constant reminder of the fear that shadows my every step. Hey guys, if you guys enjoy these stories, just feel free to hit that thumbs up button. Just give me an idea that you guys love watching these stuff. And also, I have an additional question. If you guys really enjoy these, scenic templates, also let me know. Because I'm a little concerned whether if you guys just, only care about listening to the stories or also wanting to hear the story along with these templates running in the background of the video, as it takes me quite some time to just establish this form. But if you guys are here just for the stories, let me know so I can also cut it short and provide you with more stories with less background images so that we can reach our goals together. All right, that's it. And let's hop on story number 2. Last summer, when I was 22, I was anything but social. Most of my social interactions were coerced by my less than stellar friends who would drag me out of the house. One evening, my friend Philip convinced me to attend a house party he was going to. It was a last-minute invite and I had no other plans, so I reluctantly agreed. Philip lived a few towns away, so we decided to drive separately. The moment I arrived at the address, Philip bailed, leaving me stranded outside a stranger's house. Frustrated and feeling like a fool, I decided to make the best of the situation and went inside. Inside, there was Randy, which was the host, welcomed me with a warmth that immediately eased my discomfort. He introduced me to everyone, and surprisingly, the crowd was friendly. I decided to relax and enjoy myself, indulging heavily in the alcohol. As the night wore on and the party continued to rage, I drank too much and became nauseous. Nearing 2 a.m., I staggered upstairs in search of a bathroom, but all were occupied. The house was enormous and labyrinthine, and I found myself lost in the maze of hallways. Eventually, I stumbled upon a door leading to what seemed like an attic. In desperate need of a moment alone, I ventured in. The attic was dimly lit with a window I opened to let in the cool night air. As I was about to close the window, I heard an eerie sound. Footsteps on the roof. Panic set in. With a surge of curiosity and fear, I climbed out onto the roof, driven by a mix of dread and sense of responsibility. Through the moonlight, I spotted 2 masked figures with bags emerging from another window. Realization hit me. The house was being robbed. I froze, my heart pounding. What if they were armed? In my clumsy, drunken state, I slipped and made a loud noise. One of the burglars turned his head, locking eyes with me for a split second. They immediately began to flee, making their way down a sloping part of the roof. I tried to call 911, but my phone slipped from my hand and crashed to the ground, drawing their attention. I desperately grabbed the loose shingle and threw it at them. It missed, but the noise caused one of the burglars to lose his balance and tumble into the gutter, falling hard to the ground. The second burglar scrambled down a nearby tree and disappeared into the night. I quickly peered over the edge and saw the injured burglar writhing in pain below. As sirens blared in the distance, I rushed back inside, trying to appear calm despite my lingering drunkenness. The party was still in full swing. Completely unaware of the chaos outside, I found Randy and urgently told him about the robbery. His face went pale with shock. He immediately called the police, and the atmosphere shifted from celebration to alarm. Ironically, a neighbor had already called the police about the noise, leading to a fortuitous overlap. When the police arrived, I led them to the injured burglar, who was promptly arrested. The party ended abruptly, with guests scattering and the lights being turned on. Despite my best efforts to seem sober, I was still stumbling around. Randy thanked me profusely, still incredulous. As I left, relieved that I had helped, I was left wondering why burglars would choose a house full of people to rob. Perhaps they had thought no one would be upstairs. I figured that would be the end of the story. Months later, while hanging out at Philip's place, he received a call from Randy inviting us for drinks. As we arrived, I noticed that the front door and windows of Randy's house were completely different, reinforced and heavily secured. Inside, Randy thanked me again and shared disturbing news. The burglar caught that night and had refused to implicate his partner and was serving a long prison sentence. Meanwhile, Randy's family had begun receiving threatening letters, some containing photos of them. Despite reporting these incidents, the police had no leads. A month later, Randy's mom saw a suspicious vehicle circle in the house, and there were signs of tampering in the backyard. In response, Randy's dad had upgraded their home security significantly. Hearing this, I was stunned by how serious the situation had become. The threat seemed far from over. With summer approaching, I knew I'd have another chance to catch up with Randy and hear more. The ordeal was far from finished, and I was anxious to see what would unfold next. There's a place called the Royal Hawaiian Motel in Baker, California, which has been abandoned for over a decade. It is a notorious spot among urban explorers, known for its eerie emptiness and creepy vibes. Given the brutal daytime heat, I usually venture there at night, hoping the cooler air will make my exploration more bearable. The motel is easily accessible, no fences or security to worry about. I parked my car on the roadside and headed towards the building. The motel was in a state of disrepair, with graffiti covering every surface and some parts clearly ravaged by fire. The place had a haunting derelict char, which only intensified as I walked around the grounds. The silence of the night was occasionally interrupted by the crunch of dippers under my feet. It was a perfect setting for an exploration until I heard a voice. The voice was faint, drifting through the darkness. It sounded like a woman's voice, and immediately my instincts screamed that it could be trouble. I ducked into a nearby room, turned off my flashlight, and waited. My heart was racing. After a few minutes of eerie silence, I flicked the light back on and examined the room. It was a typical abandoned motel room. Graffiti everywhere, a decrepit mattress on the floor, and a dusty old dresser. I wondered if anyone had lived here recently, but the isolation of the location made it unlikely. Venturing back outside, I continued my exploration, peeking into the ground floor rooms. The inside was much the same. Neglected furniture, graffiti, and decay. The atmosphere was unsettling, but nothing compared to what happened next. A loud crash echoed from above. Something heavy had fallen. My pulse was quickened. I glanced up the walkway above and saw the broken glass doors, feeling a surge of unease. Deciding to investigate, I ascended the stairs, my flashlight scanning each room I passed. They all seemed similar, filled with junk and faded furniture. But then, the sound started again. A rhythmic, deliberate banging, as if someone was striking the walls with a steady, ominous thump. I approached the door where the noise seemed to originate. As I neared, the banging abruptly stopped. My mind raced. Could someone or something be waiting for me inside? I announced my presence softly, stating I was just an explorer and meant no harm. Carefully, I peeked into the room. It was nearly pitch black, but I was almost sure I saw a figure in the corner. I turned on my flashlight, aiming it cautiously to avoid startling whoever or whatever was inside. The light slowly revealed a nightmarish sight. A woman with a blooded forehead and yellowish substance smeared across her mouth, moving towards me with alarming speed. Her presence was grotesque, and the sight of her approaching with that eerie intensity was more than I could handle. I bolted down the stairs, the woman screaming echoing behind me. Her cries grew fainter as I sprinted outside, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I didn't stop until I reached my car and sped away, adrenaline pumping through my veins. Once I was safely away, I called my friend George, who was also into urban exploration. I recounted the horrifying encounter, and we came to a chilling conclusion. The banging I heard was likely her head striking the walls. Explaining the severity of her injuries, George advised against calling the police, fearing it would lead to trouble for me due to the trespassing. I drove around the nearby area, desperately searching for a payphone to make an anonymous call to the police. But payphones are relics of the past, and my search was in vain. Instead, I dialed a non-emergency number, providing a vague tip about a dangerous woman without admitting I had seen her myself. I hung up quickly, unwilling to linger. Whether the police investigated or not, I couldn't say. All I knew was that the woman I encountered needed professional help far beyond what I could provide. In all my years of exploring abandoned places, I had never encountered anything so disturbing like that. The Royal Hawaiian Motel had shown me a side of urban exploration I never wanted to see again.